Hello, everyone, and welcome to Module 3 of your Medical Terminology course. This week, our focus is going to be on the nervous system and the endocrine system. So for this week, we are going to be looking at 3 chapters. We're going to be looking at Chapter 14, which is the endocrine system, Chapter 15, which is the nervous system, and Chapter 16, which is the special senses. Let's get into it. We're going to start with Chapter 14, which is the endocrine system. The primary function of your endocrine system is to produce specialized chemicals called hormones. These hormones are secreted into the bloodstream and travel to specific tissue or organs of the body. The endocrine system also maintains an internal state of equilibrium or homeostasis. The glands of the endocrine system include your pituitary gland, which is a pea-sized organ located at the base of your brain. It's also known as your master gland because it regulates many body activities and stimulates other glands to secrete their own specific hormones. Next is your thyroid gland. It is the largest gland of the endocrine system. It is H-shaped or butterfly-shaped and is located in the neck just below the larynx. We have our parathyroid next. These consist of at least 4 separate glands located on the posterior side or posterior lobes of the thyroid gland. The adrenal gland is a pair of organs, paired organs covering the superior or top surface of your kidneys. The pancreatic gland functions as an exocrine and an endocrine gland. The exocrine role is to carry digestive juices or digestive secretions from the pancreas to the small intestine through the pancreatic duct. The endocrine role is where the pancreas secretes 2 other hormones, which are glycogen and insulin. The pineal gland is shaped like a pine cone and is attached to the posterior or back side of the third ventricle of the brain, and it produces melatonin to help us sleep at night. We also have the thymus, ovaries, or testes, depending on the sex of our patient. In this slide, you will see some of the common terms that are used and common abbreviations that are used within the endocrine system. Things like ACTH, which is produced by the adrenal cortex, that is adrenochromatoin stimulating hormone. ADH is produced by your kidneys, that's an antidiuretic hormone, or also called vasopressin. You have LH and FSH, which are produced by the ovaries and the testes. LH is your luteinizing hormone, and FSH is a follicle stimulating hormone. We also have TSH, T3, and T4, all produced by the thyroid. And as you can see, TSH is your thyroid stimulating hormone. T3 is trioxythyrin, or the thyroid hormone. And T4 is thyroxine, which again is a thyroid hormone. Now, Chapter 14 does go on to discuss other diseases that are associated with the endocrine system, but I am going to leave that for you to read on your own accord. Some of the word parts that you will see within the endocrine system are adeno or adeni. This is relating to a gland. Adreno, so adding that R in there makes it adreno, and that's relating to your adrenal glands. Calcico, which is relating to calcium. We have the suffix crin, which means to secrete. The suffix dipsia, which means thirst. Glyco means glucose. Glycol means sugar, so please make sure that you do know the difference. And then we have the word part kali, which is potassium. Natro, which is sodium. Thyroid, which is thyroid, and thymo, which is thymus. And now we're going to move into Chapter 15, which is talking about your nervous system. The nervous system is one of the most complicated systems in the body, both only in structure and in function. The nervous system senses physical and chemical changes in the internal and external environments. It will then process them and then respond to them to maintain homeostasis. It will do voluntary activities like walking, running, jumping, talking, but it will also do involuntary activities like digesting food, pumping your heart for circulation, and expanding the lungs for oxygenation. When we discuss the nervous system, we have to be able to look at it at a cellular structure as well as a cellular level. The nervous system is completed and made up of two principal cell types, and together they make up nervous tissue. The first one we have is a neuron. Now, a neuron transmits impulses and are identified by their direction of how the impulse travels. So one way it travels is called afferent, A-F-F-E-R-E-N-T. And this is when the direction is toward the brain and spinal cord. We also have efferent, E-F-F-E-R-E-N-T, which is in the direction away from the spinal cord. So think about it like an elevator. Afferent is going to go up, efferent is going to go down. Neurons also have three major cellular structures. They have a cell body, an axon, and dendrites. The second type of cellular structure we have is a neuralgia. These are cells that support the neurons and bind them to other neurons or tissue. They do not transmit any impulse, but they do provide a variety of activities essential for the proper functioning of the cell. The term neuralgia means nerve glue. And there are four main types of neuralgia. There are astrocytes, oligodendrocytes, microalgal, and epiderma. There are two major systems that divide the nervous system. The first one we have is what we call the central nervous system, or CNS. This CNS consists of the brain and the spinal cord. This system has nervous tissue that is classified as either gray or white matter. And the brain is one of the largest organs of the body and is highly complex in structure and function. It's responsible for almost all physical and mental activity. It is the center for memory, emotions, thoughts, judgment, reasoning, and consciousness. And there are four main structures of the brain: the cerebrum, the cerebellum, the diencephalon, and the brainstem. The spinal cord will transmit all sensory information and sensory impulses from the body to the brain, and then the motor function impulses from the brain to the muscles of your body. The sensory nerve tracts are called ascending tracts because they go upward, and the motor neuron tracts are called descending because they go downward. Again, think about that elevator. So the sensory nerve tracts are your efferent, A-F-F-E-R-E-N-T. They go up the brain and spinal cord. And the efferent are the motor functions because they go down the spinal cord. The second system we have is called the PNS, which is the peripheral nervous system. This consists of 12 pairs of cranial nerves and 31 pairs of spinal nerves. It consists of all sensory neurons, which will carry out impulses from the body to the central nervous system, meaning again that they are afferent, A-F-F-E-R-E-N-T, and the motor neurons, which will carry the impulses from the brain and spinal cord to the muscles and the glands of their body. Again, efferent, E-F-F-E-R-E-N-T. The cranial nerves originate in the base of the brain and emerge through openings in the base of the skull. Spinal nerves emerge from the intravertebral spaces, and those are found in your spinal column, and they extend to various locations of your body. So, as if this system, again, isn't confusing enough, You've got your peripheral nervous system, your central nervous system, you've got efferent and efferent, you've got sensory neurons, you've got motor neurons. Well, if that's not enough for you, we then break your peripheral nervous system down even further into what we call a somatic and an autonomic or automatic nervous system. So we discussed that your peripheral nervous system has 12 pairs of cranial nerves and 31 pairs of spinal nerves. But this makes up what we call the somatic nervous system. Motor impulses transmitted to the muscles under conscious control belong to a somatic nervous system. So somatic is really what we call the voluntary system. Motor neuron impulses transmit to glands and muscles that are under conscious control. Motor impulses that transmit to glands and other muscles that are not under our conscious control fall under the autonomic nervous system. So somatic is voluntary, autonomic is involuntary. So again, what falls in that is like your heart, your lungs, your GI system, things of that nature. And as if that's not confusing enough that we already broke down your peripheral system into two other ones, your autonomic nervous system then breaks down even further into what we call the sympathetic and the parasympathetic divisions of your system. The sympathetic division regulates your body activities when an immediate action is required. So this is what we call our fight or flight. You will have an increase in your heart rate, an increase in the depth of your breathing, you'll have muscle strength. So when you get those feelings of like you have to get out of a situation now, like the little hairs on the back of your neck stand up and your adrenaline kind of hits in, that's your sympathetic nervous system coming in saying, hey, we have to get out of here now, we need immediate action. Now, after that immediate action has been taken and you are out of a dangerous situation, your body then falls into the parasympathetic system. And this is where we actually call it the rest and digest stage. So typically what happens is after you've had that high adrenaline, your body now comes back down and everything starts to decrease. So breathing's going to decrease, heart rate's going to go back down, your muscle strength is going to actually start to loosen up. All of that is going to then depress down. So again, here are some word parts that you will find within the nervous system. You have some word parts like encephalo, cerebello, cerebro, encephalo, gillo, lexo, meningo, mylio, narco, and nerve. You have some suffixes of lepsia or lepsy. We also have some more word parts of neuro or neuri, pherino or pherino, psyche or psycho, and schizo. And again, more suffixes of paresis, pelgia, plexi. So make sure that you do know those. It's going to be very important for your upcoming course project as well as quiz. And to wrap this up today, let's talk about chapter 16, which is talking about special senses. So general sensations perceived by the body include that of touch, pressure, pain, and temperature. These sensations are not identified with any specific site of the body. However, specific sensations that include smell, taste, vision, and hearing, as well as equilibrium, do relate to some body system. Each is specific to a specific organ or structure of your body. And by the end of the chapter, you should be able to relate those to the eyes or the ears. The eyes will be those regarding vision, and the ear will be regarding hearing and equilibrium. Taste is going to be obviously with your oral mouth, but that leads into the digestive system. Smell is going to be your nose, and that leads again into the respiratory system. So because this chapter is only focused on eyes and ears, that's where I'm going to also focus. So the eye is a globe-shaped organ composed of 3 distinct tunics or layers. The first one is the fibrous tunic. This is the outermost layer of the eyeball, and it serves as a protective coat for the more sensitive structures beneath. This layer will include the sclera, cornea, and conjunctiva. The sclera is the white of the eye. The cornea is one of the few body structures that does not contain any capillaries, and it must rely on the eye for fluids and nourishment. And the conjunctiva covers the outer surface of the eye and lines the eyelid. The second layer is the vascular tunic. That's the middle layer of your eyeball, also known as the uvea. This consists of the choroid iris and cellular body. The choroid provides blood supply to the entire eye. The iris is the colored contractile membrane that is perforated in the center with the pupil. And the cellular body is the circular muscle that produces the aqueous humor. The third and final layer is the sensory tunic. This is the innermost layer, and it is the most delicate, and it is double layered where the retina is. The retina is responsible for the reception and transmission of visual impulses to the brain. The retina has two types of visual receptors, rods and cones. Rods function in dim light and produce black and white vision, and cones function in bright light, and those will produce the colors that you see, the red, orange, green, purple, blue, all of those. The ear is the sense receptor organ for two senses, hearing and equilibrium. Hearing is the function of the cochlea. The cochlea is a snail-shaped structure filled with fluid called perilymph. And your equilibrium is a function of the semicircular canals and vestibule. When we say equilibrium, what we're referring to is the balance that your body has. The ear consists of three major sections: the outer ear, the middle ear, which is also called your tympanic cavity, and your inner ear, which is called the labyrinth. The outer ear conducts sound waves through air, the middle ear through bone, and the inner ear through fluid. The inner ear consists of a system of fluid-filled tubes and sacs, as well as nerves that connect to these structures to the brain. If you look at the inner ear, or the labyrinth, it looks like a maze, so that's why it was given that name. It rests within inside the skull bones. Not only does it include the cochlear system, which is devoted to hearing, but the vestibular system, which controls balance and eye movements. So to wrap this up, here are some of the word parts that you will see within your special senses. You have the word roots: accuso, arrow, blepharo, cor or corno, dactro, irid, myringo, oculo, and ophthalmo. But you also have the suffixes acoso or acose and opia. We also have the word parts optico, atto, phaso, and tympano. And lastly, the suffix opsia. So again, probably a good idea for you to know those, not only for course projects, but also for your quiz this week. Now, one other thing that I do want to talk about, because it is going to be important for you to know these things for your course project this week, is some of the other medical abbreviations that we use, specifically in reference to that of medications. So these are a whole list of different types of abbreviations that would come into contact. The ones that I would tell you are really important for you to know are those in the middle column. So you've got your BID, TID, and QID. Those are all in reference to medications and how often we take them. BID means twice a day, so you take it morning and night. TID is 3 times a day, so breakfast, lunch, and dinner. QID is 4 times a day, so you have to space it out. Typically, I would say every about 4 hours. Otherwise, you can have things like OD, which is just once a day, BT, which is bedtime, Also, bedtime is HS. You have BBF, which is before breakfast, BD, before dinner, TW is twice a week, and then SQ, IM, ID, and IV are all referencing on how we're administering medications. So SQ is subcutaneous, IM is intramuscular, so into a muscle, ID is intradermal, into the skin, or IV, which is intravenous, into a vein. So again, I would highly recommend if you don't have these, maybe pause, jot them down, make some flashcards out of them, just so that way you do have them for your course project this week. All right, so to wrap up my recording today, or for this week, I want to talk about your homework. You do have another discussion board this week. Again, please remember initial posts are due on Tuesdays. I know the due date on the discussion board just says Saturday. However, as I've said multiple times, I can only put in one due date, so I have to put at the end of the week. So your initial post is due on Tuesday. Your reply posts, so 2 reply posts to classmates, not to me as the instructor, are due on Saturday. If you want specific due dates, please make sure that you do look at your course calendar. You have another dictation assignment. So you had your first one last week. You know that it is a one-shot or one attempt assignment. However, there is no time limit, so you can go back and listen to the dictations as many times as you need to be able to answer those questions. You have a course project again this week on medical histories. So you'll be given 2 medical histories of patients. You'll review those, then download the worksheet, the Module 3 course project Microsoft Word document. Fill in your answers, and when you're all done with that and you've put your references on it, please upload that back to the Dropbox for grading. You have a quiz this week per normal. Please make sure that you are doing your study guide before you take your quiz, as well as the interactive activities to really help you be the most successful with your quiz. If you take your quiz and you get some things wrong and you want to know what you got wrong, please remember that you can reach out to me and ask me for your corrected information, and I will gladly provide that to you. And then lastly, you have your Module 3 live classroom. Please make sure that you check the course calendar for when our live classroom is. If you are able to attend live, that's awesome. If you are not, please make sure you do watch the recording for the code question that will be asked at some point during the presentation that you will then have to write the answer to in your Dropbox assignment. So that is all I have for you guys this week. I hope that you have an awesome week 3. We are halfway through the quarter at this point, so keep going. You're doing a fantastic job. And reach out to me if you have any questions, comments, or concerns. Bye, everyone.